Hello and welcome to The Essential Reads. My name is Isaac, and my goal is to bring to you a bunch of classic audiobooks in an easy and accessible way. We are continuing with Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoyevsky. And we are starting part 3. This is chapter 1. Check out the other parts if you haven't listened to this part already. Let's begin. Raskolnikov lifted himself on one elbow and sat up on the sofa. He made a weak gesture to Razumikhin, in order to bring to a stop the veritable deluge of incoherent and impassioned consolation that was being directed upon his mother and sister, took them both by the hand, and spent a couple of minutes studying them closely, looking now from one to the other. His mother was alarmed by his gaze. In that gaze there was visible an emotion that held the intensity of suffering, but at the same time there was something fixed and even reckless about it. Avdotya Romanovna was pale. Her hand trembled in that of her brother. "Go home. With him," he said in an unsteady voice, pointing to Razumikhin. "Tomorrow. Let's leave it all till tomorrow. Have you been in town long?" "Since this evening, Rodya," Pulcheria Alexandrovna replied. "The train was terribly late. But Rodya, I absolutely refuse to leave you like this. I'm going to spend the night here beside you. Stop harassing me," he said, making an irritable gesture with his hand. "I'll stay with him," Razumikhin exclaimed. "I shan't turn my back on him for a second. And to hell with all those guests of mine. Let them climb up and down the walls if they want to. My uncle is in charge of them now." "Oh, how can I ever thank you?" Pulcheria Alexandrovna began, pressing Razumikhin's hand again. But Raskolnikov cut her short once more. "I can't cope with this. I really can't," he said irritably. "Stop harassing me. That's enough now. Go away. I can't cope with it. Come on, mother. Let's at least get out of the room for a minute," Dunya whispered in alarm. "We're having a bad effect on him. Anyone can see that." "What's the matter? Can't I look at him? It's 3 years since I've seen him, you know." Pulcheria Alexandrovna wept. "Wait!" he cried, stopping them again. "You keep interrupting me and my thoughts are getting muddled. Have you met up with Luzhin?" "No, Rodya, but he already knows we've arrived. We've heard that Portier Petrovich was so kind as to come and see you today," Pulcheria Alexandrovna added with a certain timidity. "He was so kind as to do that. Dunya, I told Luzhin earlier on today that I'd kick him downstairs, and I told him to go to the devil." "Rodya, what got into you? I suppose you don't mean to say that?" Pulcheria Alexandrovna began in alarm, but stopped looking at Dunya. Avdotya Romanovna was staring fixedly at her brother, waiting for him to go on. Both women had already been forewarned about the quarrel by Nastasia, to the extent that she had been able to comprehend and describe it, and they had worn themselves out with worry, bewilderment, and foreboding. "Dunya," Raskolnikov went on with an effort, "I don't want you to go ahead with this marriage. And so first thing tomorrow, you must tell Luzhin that you've refused his offer, and that he must never come near us again." "Oh my God!" Pulcheria Alexandrovna exclaimed. "Think what you're saying, brother," Avdotya Romanovna began, hot-temperedly, but at once restrained herself. "But I suppose you're in no state to think about it now. You're too tired," she said meekly. "Because I'm delirious. No, you're marrying Luzhin for my sake, and I won't accept your sacrifice. That's why you must write a letter that will reach him tomorrow, refusing his offer. You must show it to me in the morning, and then that will be the end of the matter." "I can't do that," the offended girl exclaimed. "By what right? Dineshka, you're too worked up. Stop it now. Tomorrow. Can't you see?" her mother said in a frightened tone of voice, rushing to her side. Oh, we'd better go away. He's raving, cried Razumikhin, who was still feeling the effects of the drink he had consumed. He must be, otherwise he'd never dare. All this nonsense will have popped out of his head by tomorrow. But he really did throw that fellow out earlier today. It really did happen that way. Well, and the fellow got angry. He started making speeches here, showing off his knowledge. And then he went away with his tail between his legs. In that month she made visit here practically by the minute. So it's true then? Pulcheria Alexandrovna exclaimed. Until tomorrow, brother, Dunya said with compassion. Come on, mother. Goodbye, Rodya. Look here, sister, he said as they went out, gathering the last of his energies. I'm not delirious. This marriage you're planning is a vile business. I may be a villain, but you mustn't. Some jumped-up nobody. And although I'm a villain, I refuse to accept any sister who does such a thing as a sister of mine. It's either Luzhin or me. Now, go. Hey, you're out of your mind, despot! Bawled Razumikhin. But Raskolnikov made no reply, nor, in all likelihood, would he have been able to. He lay down on the sofa and turned to the wall in complete exhaustion. Avdotya Romanovna gave Razumikhin an inquisitive look. Her black eyes flashed. Razumikhin actually shuddered beneath their gaze. Pulcheria Alexandrovna stood as though stricken. I cannot possibly go, she whispered to Razumikhin, practically in despair. I shall find somewhere to stay here. Please take Dunya home. And you'll ruin everything, Razumikhin said, almost in a whisper beside himself. Let us at least go out to the staircase. Nastasia, bring us some light. I swear to you, he went on in a semi-whisper out on the staircase now, that earlier on he nearly gave the doctor and me a thrashing. Do you understand? The doctor himself. And the doctor let him have his own way, so as not to irritate him, and left. I stayed downstairs on guard, meanwhile, but he put on his clothes and sneaked out. He'll do it again if you get him all worked up like that. And it'll be at night this time, and he may go and do something silly to himself. Oh, what are you saying? And in any case, it's quite out of the question for Avdotya Romanovna to be left alone in those rooms without you. Just think where it is you're staying. I mean, surely that villain Pyotr Petrovich could have found you some better accommodation. But you know, I'm a bit drunk. That's why I'm shouting. Don't pay any... Oh, but I should go and see the landlady here, Pulcheria Alexandrovna insisted. I shall implore her to give Dunya and myself a room for the night. I can't leave him like this. I can't. All this was said on the staircase, on the landing right outside the landlady's door. Nastasia was shining a lantern on them from the bottom step. Razumikhin was in a state of excitement unusual even for him. Half an hour earlier, escorting Raskolnikov home, he might have been somewhat too talkative, something he himself admitted, but completely bright and cheerful, and almost fresh in despite of the terrible quantity of vodka he had drunk that evening. Now, however, his condition resembled some trance-like state, and at the same time it was as if all the vodka he had drunk, instantly, and with redoubled strength, had rushed back up to his head. He stood with both ladies, holding them both by the hands, talking them round, and presenting his arguments with astonishing frankness. Doubtless, for the sake of added persuasion, with practically each word he uttered, hard as in a vice, he squeezed their hands until they hurt, appearing to devour Avdotya Romanovna with his eyes as he did so, without the slightest inhibition. Because of the pain he was causing them, they would from time to time pull their hands out of his enormous bony paw. But not only did he fail to observe what was going on, he drew them even more tightly towards him. If just then, as a favour, they'd requested him to throw himself down the stairs head first, he would have done it instantly, without a moment's hesitation or reflection. Pulcheria Alexandrovna felt that the young man was very eccentric, and was squeezing her hand far too hard, because of the utter state of anxiety she was in concerning her Roger. However, she nonetheless tended to view him as having been sent by Providence, and tried not to notice all these eccentric details. But, in spite of sharing this anxiety, Avdotya Romanovna, though by nature not easily frightened, encountered the wild-fire glittering stares of her brother's friend with astonishment, and even alarm. And it was only by the limitless confidence inspired by Nastasia's stories about this strange man that held her back from the temperament of running away from him and hauling her mother off with her. She'd also perhaps realized that it was now impossible for them to run away from him. For all that, after some 10 minutes had elapsed, she grew considerably calmer. Razumikhin had a way of saying all he had to say on any particular subject in a single flash, no matter what his frame of mind, so that it was very easy for people to discover whom they were dealing with. "It's no good you're going to see the landlady. It's the most terrible, nonsensical idea," he exclaimed, trying to make Pulcheria Alexandrovna see reason. "Even though you are his mother, if you stay, you'll drive him into a frenzy, and then the devil knows what may happen. Look here. This is what I'll do. Nastasia will sit with him now, and I'll take you both back to your lodgings, because you simply can't go out on the streets alone. Here in St. Petersburg, on that score, Oh, to hell with it. Then, when I've seen you safely home, I'll return here at the double, and a quarter of an hour later, so cross my heart, I'll bring you a report on how he is, on whether he's asleep or not, and all the rest of it. Then, from your place, I'll set off like a flash to my own quarters. I've guessed there. They're all drunk. I'll go in and get Zosimov. He's the doctor who's looking after him. He's at my place now. He's not drunk. He'll not be drunk. He's never drunk. I'll haul him off to see Roger, and then come back to you immediately. That way, you'll get 2 reports on him. And this one will be from a doctor, you understand? From the doctor himself. That's a bit different from getting one from me. If he's in a bad way, I swear to you to bring you here myself. But if he's all right, you can go to bed. I'll spend the night out here in the passage. He won't know I'm there. And I'll tell Zosimov to spend the night in the landlady's apartment, so he'll be near at hand. Think about it. Who does he need more just now? Yourselves or a doctor? The doctor, of course. The doctor's far more used to him. Well, so off you go home. There's no good you're going to see the landlady. I can get somewhere with her, but you couldn't. She won't let you stay there, because she's an idiot. If you really must know, she'd be jealous of Avdotya Romanovna, and of my knowing you too. She's a most peculiar character. But I'm an idiot too. But hell with it. Come on. Do you trust me? Well, do you or don't you? Come on, mother, said Avdotya Romanovna. I expect he'll do as he says. He's already received my brother. And if it's true that the doctor will agree to spend the night here, what could be better? Are things really as bad as that? There! You understand me because you're an angel! Razumikhin exclaimed in ecstasy. Let us be out on our way. Nastasia, go up there this instant and sit with him. Take your lantern. I'll be back in a quarter of an hour. Even though Pulcheria Alexandrovna was not really quite convinced, she offered no further resistance. Razumikhin took them both by the arm and drew them down the stairs. But he too made her uneasy. And that Munchie made visit here practically by the minute. Even though he's prompt and kind, is he really in a condition to carry out what he's promising to do? I mean, he's in a certain state. Ah, I've got it. You think I'm in a certain state? Razumikhin said, intercepting her thoughts, having guessed at them as he loped along the pavement with the most enormous strides, so that the ladies were scarcely able to keep up with him, something he failed, however, to notice. Nonsense! That's to say, I'm as drunk as a village oaf, but not in that way. I'm drunk, but not from drinking alcohol. When I first caught sight of you, everything rushed to my head. But the hell with me. Don't pay any attention. I'm talking nonsense. I'm unworthy of you. I'm in the highest degree unworthy. and as soon as I've taken you home, I'm going straight down to the canal and empty 2 pails of water over my head, and I'll be done with it. If only you knew how I love you both. Don't laugh, and don't be angry. You can be angry with anyone else, but not with me. I'm his friend. That means I'm your friend, too. I so much want. I had a premonition of this. Last year, there was a moment like this. But it wasn't really a premonition at all, because the two of you have quite simply fallen from heaven. Oh, but I probably shan't be able to sleep all night. Old Zosimov was afraid earlier on that he might go mad. That's why he mustn't be excited. What you telling me? Raskolnikov's mother exclaimed. Did the doctor really say that? Asked Avdotya Romanovna in fear. Yes, he did. But he's wrong, quite wrong. He gave him some medicine, a powder. I saw it. And when you arrived... Damn! You'd have done better to have arrived tomorrow. Just as well be left. But in an hour's time, Zosimov himself will provide you with the report on him. He's never drunk. And I won't be drunk by then either. Why ever did I go and get myself so smashed? Oh, it was because I was led into an argument by those accursed fellows. I mean, I swore an oath that I wouldn't get involved in any arguments. Such nonsense they talk. I very nearly gave them a dusting. I left my uncle there in charge of them. I mean, would you believe it? They demand complete impersonality, and find in that the very pith of the matter. How to avoid being themselves, how to resemble themselves as little as possible, and that's what they consider to be the highest degree of progression. I mean, if at least it was their own nonsense, but this is simply... Listen now, Pulcheria Alexandrovna interrupted timidly. But this only increased the temperature. What do you suppose? Razumikhin shouted, raising his voice even louder. Do you suppose I'm going on like this because they talk nonsense? Rubbish. I like it when they talk nonsense. Talking nonsense is the sole privilege mankind possesses over other organisms. It's by talking nonsense that one gets to the truth. I talk nonsense, therefore I'm human. Not one single truth has ever been arrived at without people first having talked a dozen reams of nonsense. Even 10 dozen reams of it. And that's an honorable thing in its own way. Well, but we can't even talk nonsense without our own brains. Talk nonsense to me by all means, but do it with your own brain and I shall love you for it. Talk nonsense in one's own way is almost better than to talk truth in someone else's. It's the first instance you behave like a human being, while in the second you are merely being a parrot. The truth won't go away, but life can be knocked on the head and done in. I can think of some examples. Well, and what's our position now? We are all of us, every one of us without exception, when it comes to the fields of learning, development, thought, invention, ideals, ambition, liberalism, reason, experience, and every other field you can think of in the very lowest preparatory form of gymnasium, we've got accustomed to making do with other people's intelligence. We're soaked in it. It's true, isn't it? Is what I'm saying true? It's true, isn't it? Isn't what I'm saying true? Cried Razumikhin, trembling all over and squeezing the hands of both ladies. Isn't it true? Oh my goodness, I don't really know, said poor Pulcheria Alexandrovna. It is, yes, it is. Only I don't agree with all of what you've been saying. Avdotya Romanovna added seriously, and then let out a cry, so painfully did he squeeze her hand this time. Is it? You say it is? Well, if you can say that, you... He shouted in ecstasy. You're the fount of goodness, purity, and reason, and perfection. Give me your hand. Give it me. And please give me yours as well. I want to kiss your hands here and now on my knees. And he knelt down in the middle of the pavement, which at this time was fortunately deserted. Stop it, I beg you. What are you doing? Cried Pulcheria Alexandrovna, extremely alarmed. Get up! Get up! Dunya laughed, also somewhat anxiously. Certainly not. Not until you give me your hands. There we are. That's enough. Up I get, and on we go. I'm a miserable oaf. I'm drunk and unworthy of you. And I'm ashamed of myself. I'm not worthy to love you, but to kneel before you is the duty of every man unless he is a complete brute. And so I too have knelt. here are your rooms. Rodion was right to kick Pyotr Petrovich out for just this reason alone. How dare he put you in such a place? Rodion was right to kick Pyotr Petrovich out for just this reason alone. How dare he put you in such a place? It's outrageous. Do you know what sort of people they allow in here? I mean, you're going to be married. You are, aren't you? Well, let me tell you that if he can do a thing like this, your fiancé is a villain. Look here, Mr. Razumikhin. You seem to have forgotten. Pulcheria Alexandrovna began. Yes, you are right. I've forgotten myself, and I'm ashamed of it. Razumikhin said, suddenly remembering where he was. But, you can't be angry at me for speaking as I've done, because I'm speaking sincerely, and not because I... That would be a cheap thing to do. Oh, all right then, let's leave it there. I shan't say why, I don't dare to. But we all knew when that fellow walked in earlier today that he wasn't one of us. Not because he'd been to the barber to have his hair curled. Not because he was in such a hurry to show off his intelligence, but because he's a spy and a speculator. Because he's a Jew and an ingratiating hypocrite. And you can tell it a mile off. Do you suppose he's got brains? No, he's a fool. A fool. Well, is he any sort of man for you? Oh my God. You see, ladies, he said, coming suddenly to a halt as they were climbing the staircase to the rented rooms. Even though those people at my place are all drunk, they're all honest, too. And even though we talk a lot of nonsense, for I too am talking nonsense, we'll finally talk our way to the truth, because we tread the path of decency, while Pyotr Petrovich does not. Although I may have called them the most terrible names just now, but in the last analysis, I respect them all. And even though I may not respect Zamyatov, I like him because he's a puppy. I even like that brute Zosimov because he's a decent fellow and he knows his job. But enough. All is said and forgiven. It is forgiven, isn't it? Well, let's go on then. I know this corridor. I've been here before. In the third room here, there was a scandal. Well, which number are you? 8? Once you've locked yourself in for the night, don't let anyone in. In a quarter of an hour, I shall be back with news. And then, in a quarter of an hour after that, I will be back again with Zosimov. You'll see. Goodbye now. I must run. Oh, Lord, Duneshka, what's going to happen? Said Pulcheria Alexandrovna, turning to her daughter in fear and alarm. Calm down, mother, replied Dunya, taking off her hat and cape. This gentleman has been sent by God himself, even though he's come straight from a drinking bout. We may rely on him. I do assure you, we may. And after all the things he's done for my brother. Oh, Duneshka, Lord only knows whether he'll come back. And how could I ever have brought myself to leave Roger? I never imagined I should find him like that. How stern he was. As though he wasn't even glad to see us. Tears came to her eyes. No, mother, that's not how it was. You didn't look at him properly. You kept crying all the time. He's very unsettled because he's been seriously ill. That's the reason for it all. In that month, she made visit here practically by the minute. Oh, this illness! Something bad will happen, said her mother, looking timidly into her daughter's eyes in order to find out what she was thinking, and already half consoled because Dunya was defending Rodya, and must therefore have forgiven him. Oh, I'm sure he'll see it differently tomorrow, she added, trying to find out everything that was there. And I'm sure that tomorrow he'll still be talking the same way. About that, Avdotya Romanovna said abruptly. There, of course, the matter rested, as this was the very point about which Pulcheria Alexandrovna was now too afraid to open her mouth. Dunya went over to her and kissed her. Her mother embraced her tightly, saying nothing. Then she sat down in the anxious expectation of Razumikhin's return, and began timidly to follow the movements of her daughter, who, her arms folded, also in expectation, had begun to walk up and down the room, meditating to herself. This habit of walking up and down a room from one end to the other while meditating was a constant one of Avdotya Romanovna, and at such moments her mother was always afraid of disturbing the privacy of her thoughts. Razumikhin had, of course, been making a fool of himself with his sudden and drunkenly conceived passion for Avdotya Romanovna. But had they taken one look at Avdotya Romanovna, particularly just then, as she walked up and down the room, sadly and meditatively, with her arms folded, it is possible that many people would have forgiven him. His eccentric condition apart, that is. Avdotya Romanovna was remarkably attractive. Tall, with a wonderful figure, strong and self-confident, something that was expressed in her every gesture, and yet in no way distracted from the softness and gracefulness of her movements. She bore a facial likeness to her brother, but in her, these features were almost those of beauty. Her hair was of a dark chestnut colour, a little lighter than that of her brother. Her eyes were nearly black, flashing, proud, and yet, at moments, extraordinarily kind. She was pale, but not morbidly so. Her face shone with freshness and health. Her mouth was a little too small, her lower lip, fresh and scarlet, jutted ever so slightly forward, together with her chin. The only irregularity in this beautiful countenance, endowing it, however, with an especial characteristic distinctiveness, and, as it should be said, a certain hauteur. Her expression was generally more serious and thoughtful than it was lively. Yet how well her smile suited that face of hers. How well it was adapted to laughter. Young, lively, wholehearted. It was understandable that the hot-blooded, outspoken, simple-hearted, honest, Herculean, strong, and drunken Razumikhin, who had never seen anything similar before, should have lost his head at first sight. As though on purpose, moreover, chance had given him his first sight of Dunya at the beautiful moment of her love for her brother, and of her joy at seeing him again. Thereafter he had seen how her lower lip had trembled in response to her brother's rudely delivered and cruelly ungrateful injunctions, and had been unable to restrain himself. He had, however, not been mistaken when, drunk on the staircase earlier, he had unintentionally let it slip that Raskolnikov's eccentric landlady, Praskovya Pavlovna, would be jealous not only of Avdotya Romanovna, but also possibly of Pulcheria Alexandrovna herself. In spite of the fact that Pulcheria Alexandrovna was now 43, her face still retained the traces of her former beauty, and indeed she looked much younger than her years, something that nearly always happens to women who keep the lucidity of their spirits, the freshness of their perceptions, and an honest, pure warmth of heart until old age. Let us observe in parentheses that the retention of all these things is the only means by which one may avoid losing one's looks, even when one is old. Her hair was already beginning to turn grey and grow thin. Small, radiating wrinkles had long ago started to appear around her eyes. Her cheeks had become sunken and wasted from worry and grief. Yet even so, this face was beautiful. It was a portrait of Dunya only 20 years later, and without that expression of the lower lip, which in her did not jut forward. Pulcheria Alexandrovna was emotional, but not in a sickly sweet way. Timid and compliant, but only up to a certain point. There was much that she was capable of letting pass, much to which she would give her agreement, even that which ran counter to her convictions. But there was always a certain point of uprightness, good conduct, and at last, principles beyond which no eventuality could induce her to go. Exactly 20 minutes after Razumikhin's departure, there were 2 low but hurried knocks at the door. He was back. "I won't come in, there's no time." He began to fuss as the door was opened to him. "He's sleeping like a log, soundly and peacefully. And may God see to it that he sleeps for 10 hours. Nastasia is in his room. I told her not to leave until I get back. Now I should go and fetch out Zosimov. He'll provide you with a report. And then you'd better turn in too. I can see that you're plain worn out." And he set off, along the corridor, away from them. "What a prompt and devoted young man," Pulcheria Alexandrovna exclaimed, thoroughly overjoyed. "He seems to be a wonderful character," Avdotya Romanovna replied with a certain ardour, starting to walk up and down the room again. Almost an hour later, there was the sound of footsteps in the corridor, and another knock at the door. Both women had been waiting, this time entirely believing Razumikhin's promise. And indeed, he had managed to fish out Zosimov. Zosimov had at once agreed to leave the banquet and take a look at Raskolnikov, though he had come to the rooms of the ladies reluctantly and with great suspicion, unsure whether to believe the drunken Razumikhin. His vanity was, however, at once assuaged, and even somewhat flattered. He realized that he was actually being awaited as an oracle. He stayed precisely 10 minutes, and completely succeeded in convincing Pulcheria Alexandrovna and putting her fears to rest. He spoke with emphatic solitude, but in a restrained manner, and with the kind of intense seriousness entirely proper to a 27-year-old doctor at an important consultation, never once saying anything that was not relevant to the matter at hand, and without displaying the slightest desire to enter into more personal and private relations with the two ladies. Having noted upon entering how dazzlingly beautiful Avdotya Romanovna was, he at once endeavoured not to pay any attention to her at all, throughout the entire duration of the visit, addressing himself exclusively to Pulcheria Alexandrovna. All this afforded him with great inward satisfaction. With regard to the patient, he declared at the present time he considered him to be in a thoroughly satisfactory condition. As far as he could determine, the patient's illness had, beyond the negative effect of the material environment in which he had been living for the past few months, certain mental causes. It is, so to speak, the product of many complex mental and material influences, of anxieties, apprehensions, worries, of certain ideas, and the like. Having noticed in passing that Avdotya Romanovna had begun to listen attentively, Zosimov allowed himself to expand a little more on this theme. In response to Pulcheria Alexandrovna's worried and timid inquiries regarding certain suspicions of insanity, however, he replied with a calm, open, and ironic smile that he had been exaggerating. That, to be sure, the patient displayed a certain idée fixe, something that suggested monomania. The fact was that he, Zosimov, was at present conducting a special study of this extremely interesting branch of medicine. But, after all, it must be borne in mind that almost right up until today, the patient had been in delirium, and, of course, the arrival of his family would strengthen him, take his mind off things, and have a salutary effect on him. As long as it is possible to avoid any more shocks of a particular kind, he added significantly. And then he got up, bowed solidly and affably, was escorted to the door with blessings, expressions of ardent gratitude, entreaties, and even the hand of Avdotya Romanovna, which was extended towards him for him to shake without his asking. And he emerged thoroughly satisfied with his visit, and even more so with himself. "We'll talk tomorrow. Now you must go off to bed immediately," Razumikhin said, to round things off as he left together with Zosimov. "I shall be back with my report as early as I can tomorrow morning." "I say, that Avdotya Romanovna's a delicious little kiddie," Zosimov commented, practically licking his lips as both men emerged onto the street. "Delicious? Did you say delicious?" Razumikhin roared, and he suddenly rushed at Zosimov and grabbed him by the throat. "If you ever dare!" "Got it! Got it!" he shouted, shaking him by the collar and forcing him against the wall. "Got it! Got it! Oh, let me go, you drunken sod!" said Zosimov, beating off the attack. Then, when Razumikhin had let him go, Zosimov looked at him fixedly, and suddenly went off into peals of laughter. Razumikhin stood before him, his arms lowered, in gloomy and serious reflection. "Of course I'm an ass," he said, looking as gloomy as a thundercloud. "But I mean, so are you." "No, I'm not, brother. I'm not one at all. I don't spend my time dreaming about stupid things." They walked on without saying anything, and it was only when they were approaching Raskolnikov's lodgings that Razumikhin, intensely preoccupied, broke the silence. "Listen," he said to Zosimov, "you're a wonderful chap. But in addition to all your other rotten qualities, you're a lecher. I know you are, and one of the filthiest. You're a weak, nerve-ridden scoundrel. You're unstable. You've run to fat and can't deny yourself anything. And I call that filth because it leads straight down into filth. You've grown so soft that I must confess I find it hard to understand how you can still be a good or even selfless doctor. You sleep on a featherbed all day. A doctor! And only get up at night to attend to the odd patient. In 3 years' time, you won't even be doing that. Well, to hell with that. That's not what I was going to say. What I want to say is, you'll be spending the night in the landlady's apartment. I had some job persuading her, and I'll be in the kitchen. There's your chance to get better acquainted with her. No, it's not what you're thinking. There's not a shadow of that kind of thing there, brother. But I wasn't thinking anything of the sort. What you have there, brother, is shyness, reticence, bashfulness, fierce chastity, and yet at the same time, sighs, and she melts like wax. Ah, how she melts. You've got to save me from her, for the sake of all the devils in the world. She's a dish. I'll earn it. I'll do my damnedest to earn it. Zosimov began to chortle even more loudly than before. Really in the grip of it, aren't you? But what would I want with her? I assure you that there's not much trouble involved. All we have to do is talk any kind of wish-wash you like. Just sit beside her and talk. What's more, you're a doctor. You could start treating her for something. I swear you won't be sorry. She has an old piano. Well, you know, I trinkle on it a bit now and then. There's a song I like to play. A real Russian one called I'll Drown in Burning Tears. She likes the real ones. Well, it all started with that song. But, I mean, you're a virtuoso on the piano. A maître. A Rubinstein. I assure you, you won't be sorry. What have you been doing? Making her promises? Signed a note, have you? Perhaps you've promised to marry her. No, there's been absolutely nothing like that. Anyway, she's not that kind. Chebarov tried approaching her. Well, drop her then. It's not as easy as that. Why not? It's just not, that's all. You see, it involves the principles of induction, brother. Then why did you lead her astray? I didn't. Perhaps I allowed myself to be led astray out of all stupidity. But it'll really be all the same to her whether it's me or you. All she wants is for there to be someone sitting there next to her, sighing. You see, brother, I can't put it into words. Well, I mean, you're good at mathematics. You're still studying it, I know. Well, you could start teaching her integral calculus. No, I'm not joking. I mean it seriously. It really will be all the same to her. She'll look at you and sigh, and it'll go on like that for a whole year. Actually, I spent 2 whole days telling her about the Prussian Assembly of Nobles because I couldn't think of anything else to tell her. And she just sat there sighing and sweating. Only don't mention the word love. She's so shy it nearly gives her a seizure. But pretend you can't leave her side either. That'll be sufficient. It's incredibly comfortable. You make yourself completely at home. Read, sit, lie on the sofa. Write. You can even kiss her if you're careful about it. But what do I want with her? Damn it! I can't seem to explain it to you at all. Look, you're both completely suited for each other. It isn't the first time I've thought of you. I mean, this is how you're going to end up eventually anyway. So, isn't it all the same to you whether it's sooner or later? You see, brother, it involves the featherbed principle. Damn it, and not just the featherbed one, either. It's a process of induction. It means by the end of the world, an anchor, a quiet haven, the hub of the universe, the triethic foundation of the earth, the essence of blinis, the juicy kulibelekis of the evening samovar, of quiet lamentations and snug, fur-trimmed jackets of warm stove couches. Yes, as if you have died, but both were still alive, with the simultaneous advantages of both. Well, brother, the devil, I'm talking through my head. It's time to go to bed. Listen, I sometimes wake up at night, so I'll probably go in and take a look at him. Only there's nothing the matter with him. It's nonsense. Everything's all right. So don't you worry either. And look in too, just once if you can. But should you notice anything, delirium or fever, for example, wake me up at once. But I don't think you'll need to. Thank you so very much for listening. If you enjoyed, please like, comment, share, all that jazz. And if you really enjoyed, do subscribe because there is more to come. If you're listening on podcast, please leave a review as it helps get this in front of as many people as possible, and reading your reviews really makes my day. If you want to support me further on Shopify, just play the show while you're asleep. Help me get those monetization requirements that I need there and that are now accessible to me in Europe, where I live. That would be really, really nice if you could help me get those monetization requirements there, as I would just be able to live more comfortably, and that would be nice, because my God, is it tight. Shouldn't have to put that on you. Listen to the show at night. Just, do your best. Share it around with people. Get people listening on Spotify as well as on YouTube. That would be very nice. If you want to support the show further, there's a Ko-Fi link you can click on here. It's like a donation thing you can do to the show to help improve this space and help, me live. But yeah, once again, thank you very much for listening. And until next time, bye-bye.